Twice a year, select students from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln's College of Journalism and Mass Communications participate in the Global Eyewitness Project, a program led by Professor Bruce Thorson and funded through a private $2 million endowment. The mission? Bring attention to social issues in developing countries.
Global Eyewitness allows our professor, Bruce Thorson, to travel twice a year to different countries around the world, taking a group of students to complete multimedia stories. We research, we plan, we have 3 weeks on the ground, and then we present to the public.
Each one of you has really incredible and powerful stories.
The students have about 7 weeks to determine their focus before leaving for their destination.
You're learning about the country, you're learning about the history, you're learning about the culture.
Once they've kind of gotten some information, some research, we just start throwing story ideas up on the board. And we talk about each one. What would be the visual potential here? How good of a story is this?
Once they arrive in their selected country, the real work commences. The students, with help from local fixers and interpreters, venture into the field, attempting to capture moments that illustrate the plight of their subjects.
One of the main points that we wanted to get across was showing the Western world a different side of Ethiopia. I tried to just take it all in and see things through their perspective. I kind of just threw myself into the work. It was the most amazing experience.
After 3 weeks abroad, the group returns to Lincoln, where the arduous process of editing their multimedia stories begins.
Through this project, people are going to be able to learn about hyena feeding and learn about child brides in Ethiopia. These are all things that you don't really see too often. You don't hear about Ethiopia besides famine and poverty, but we're bringing you human stories.
The hard work culminates with a showcase event at a local theater, where the students have a forum to share their stories with the public.
We try to attract as many people from Lincoln, Omaha, the surrounding area to come and view the stories. We accept donations at the event, which we think is important. This money gets funneled back toward the subjects of our stories. The event serves a great learning purpose for everyone, and maybe it'll inspire them to do something.
I asked specifically to have Sanghi and Pasanga Wangchu be my Sherpa guides on Everest because I knew these guys, I knew their character, I knew their strength. I was essentially convinced I was about to die. I could not breathe, I couldn't even sit up. So they picked me up and kind of dragged me into my tent at high camp. I owe these guys my life.
Sherpa people migrated from Tibet to the Solu-Khumbu region of Nepal's Himalayas in the 16th century. They've lived here ever since, farming and herding yak, developing a natural acclimatization to the altitude at the foot of the highest mountain in the world. Many Westerners think the word Sherpa simply means porter on Everest, when actually it's an entire ethnic group.
I do think overall the strength still carries through, the idea about these incredibly strong people who live up high on the mountains and take people to the roof of the world.
In 1953, Amelia's grandfather, Sir Edmund Hillary, and the Sherpa Tenzing Norgay became the first pair to ever conquer Everest.
It's one of the most famous partnerships in history. It's two people who didn't even speak each other's languages, conquering the unknown, climbing to the roof of the world together.
Since the first summit, the trekking industry has exploded in the Khumbu Valley. People come from all over the world to climb Everest or just hike through the region. This tourism brought more prosperity to the Sherpa people who run lodges in the foothills and work as porters on Everest.
In the 1950s, the Sherpa community was one of the poorest, if not the poorest community. If you look where they are now in 65 years, they are the wealthiest community per capita in this country.
Guiding people up the mountain means more money, but it also means letting hundreds of foreigners climb a religious deity, often without realizing its spiritual significance. For Sherpa people, Mount Everest is the home of Chomulangma, or Mother Goddess of the Earth.
It's very dangerous and very risky, but we can't get the money because we need to give the education for the children.
Just up to this one, you have to do up to.
Schools are good news for Sherpas who hope their children won't have to grow up to work on the mountain like their parents.
Over the last 3 seasons, and we've had 20-odd young men killed. My lad, he's lost 15 friends in 5 seasons on Chomulangma.
The Khumbu ice fall is the most treacherous part of the climb.
The Sherpa boys will go through the ice fall 30 to 40 times. The clients will go 2 or 3 times. They don't want to do it. I mean, my head man now has done one trip. He said, we don't want to be here. We know it's dangerous. The people that own these companies say, oh, but they're getting really well paid. Yeah, really? Is it worth dying for?
While work on the mountain won't end soon, more and more young Sherpas are moving out of their homeland for skilled jobs in Kathmandu and other parts of the world. Sherpa people continue to work in the hopes of providing a brighter future for their children. A devastating earthquake rocked Nepal in April 2015. 8,000 people were killed, 3.5 million left homeless. With nowhere to go, many people in Kathmandu settled in any open area. This tent camp in Kathmandu has been here over a year and has about 1,000 residents. UNICEF and Noble Compassionate Volunteer are stopping their supply of clean water. They will no longer maintain the waste services. The camp will establish a committee to collect funds and bring in water. This is to help people take more responsibility in the community. Kumari Darj calls the displacement camp home. Because of the earthquake, she has a metal plate in her skull. She doesn't know what tomorrow will bring, and the future is even more uncertain.
I'm happy somehow, as I survived the worst fate of my life. But I'm equally sad for all the sufferings I have to go through.
Mangali Maya Rai takes care of her mother-in-law, Fulmaya, full-time. Fulmaya has asthma. 3 months ago, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. Mangali rubs oils on her mother-in-law's back to comfort her. Mangali is unable to work while she takes care of her.
Only hardships and sorrows fill this life.
The family has to ask relatives for loans. Fulmaya is dying. They're still hoping she will recover. Pipana Tamang worked as a tailor and occasionally at garment factories before the earthquake. She set up the training program to teach women tailoring. She hopes using the machines will empower the women in the camp to find skilled work.
Just training the women, people, make them skilled and able to stand on their feet. And about my future, it's uncertain.
People living in the tent camp are caught in limbo. They are too afraid to move into new houses or apartments due to fear of more earthquakes. The tents are their safe homes for now. There's a community here, neighbors look out for each other, and the money coming in goes to educating the children. After-school programs help them learn skills that aren't covered in school. Children provide hope for the community. Despite uncertainties in life, there is a feeling of safety within this camp. Some believe blindness to be punishment for a sin committed in a previous life. Visually impaired people in Nepal are considered a burden to their families, especially in rural areas, thought of as helpless and unable to provide.
Currently, I have been running a blind massage clinic called Seeing Hands Nepal in Kathmandu. Basically, the aim of our clinic is to train Nepalese visually impaired in professional massage and then create employment for them. This year we have taken 6 students, but they are not qualified yet for the jobs. But before, we trained 23 students, and about 14 of them have been working as a masseur.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Students start each day with an hour workout to get moving and get in the habit of exercising regularly. They go through a series of stretches and cardio movements. During their 18 months of training, students learn English. This allows them to make small talk and communicate with their future clientele, as majority of them are tourists.
I am also fine.
How can I help you?
How can I help you?
Much of class time is spent learning theory. Students bring out Andy, the skeleton. Andy helps students to better understand the different systems, muscles, joints, nerves, and bones that make up the human body.
5 bones on the metatarsus and 14 bones on phalanges. 1, 2, 3.
भन्दा मलाई चाहिँ अहिलेसम्म जे मैले भेटिरहेको छु मेरो यो ट्रेनिङ
I'm really happy with what I have accomplished during my training time. I have a feeling that what I have been learning from my teacher, I can apply to my clients in the future. I'm confident about that.
क्लाइन्टहरुमा पनि अप्लाई गर्न सक्छु जस्तो लाग्छ.
Firstly, their life have been changed. Secondly, they have been able to help their family. And then the third one, they have been able to change the stigma of the society, so they have their own reputation and then their own identity. Although our eyes cannot see, our hands can see, so we can really feel, and then we concentrate in feelings. That is why this is one of the most beautiful advantage, I think.
When Maya was 12 years old, strangers could come to her mother and ask for her hand in marriage. After going into hiding from these men, Maya's mom eventually sold her for about $10. After 3 years of abuse by her husband, she escaped and went back to her mother's house. Her mother told her that she had no idea about the abuse and that she missed her deeply. Yet the next day, her mother sold her again to a different man. Again, Maya escaped her husband and ran to the city of Kathmandu. Soon after finding her freedom, her body began to feel strange.
I could not feel my left toes anymore. Gradually, I was paralyzed from the waist down. Then, I was tested for a disease called AIDS. I used to think that I would not have this disease if my mother had not put me into the marriages. I think that my mother must have loved me a lot. But I realized I never truly understood that.
Maya doesn't understand why she contracted AIDS or why she lost feelings in her legs and now has to rely on others for daily tasks. Maya's brother died in an earthquake 8 years ago. Ever since then, her nephew Pasang has been her caretaker. Maya now works as a jewelry maker at a non-profit called Beauty for Ashes. Her job is more than just the money. She's surrounded by women that were victims of sex trafficking in abusive relationships or just living off the streets. They aren't co-workers, she says. They are her sisters. Maya has found work, but she has also found a family of people that give her love that she never found in her marriages. They vow to not lie. They vow to not drink alcohol. They vow to not steal. They vow to not marry. Breaking these vows can destroy everything. The 1959 Chinese invasion in Tibet caused political and Buddhist spiritual leader, the 14th Dalai Lama, to flee. Thousands of Tibetans also fled the country to practice the spiritual Buddhist life. Monasteries and nunneries in Nepal are a staple of freedom. They create an environment and way of life for Tibetans to freely practice their religion.
In Tibet, they cannot pray Dalai Lama, but in Nepal, they are free because we respect their own religions and dignity.
The Kopan nunnery houses around 360 nuns, many of which are Tibetan refugees. 50% of the nuns are orphans, and the rest come from impoverished homes. The nunnery provides free education, healthcare, food, and shelter. The nuns spend an average of 14 hours a day studying, praying, carrying out duties, and fulfilling requested dedication. Buddhism is based on realizations and insights from Buddha, and that suffering is related to failure of wisdom. Philosophical debate is a way for Buddhists to establish views on reality and gain wisdom. The challenger stands, asking questions, and the defender sits, answering the questions. The challenger claps to end the question, which is an argument in response to the defender's answer.
I think that Buddhism is to change our mind, to change day by day. You have to change your anger, attachment, and ignorance. Mercy, more, compassionate heart. You have to practice on that.
यसलाई गर्छन् जुन सहयोग काम गर्छन् यस्तो यस्तो रोग लाग्छ मान्छेलाई शिक्षा
People in my community hate me for what I am.
In this culture, you are taught this is punishment for a sin you committed in this life or a previous life, and it is your karma, your dharma, to live out this punishment.
Leprosy is a bacterial skin infection. It's a bacteria that likes cool temperatures, so that's why it infects the skin, but it'll also infect the nerves that are close to the surface of the skin. In the country of Nepal, we have around 3,000 to 3,200 new cases diagnosed per year.
In addition to antibiotic regimens, the leprosy patients undergo daily physical therapy to strengthen their muscles and reduce the chances of losing feeling due to nerve damage. After treatment, Anandabon offers a self-help program to help discharged patients safely reintegrate themselves into their daily routines.
So the nerve damage may happen before they even know they have leprosy. That can cause a lot of issues in a culture where people are significantly impoverished, dependent on farming to feed their children. So if you don't feel, then you can wound yourself and not be aware of it. And so sometimes patients will develop secondary infections. For instance, if they're dealing with a hot cup of tea or with cooking with a pot and they burn themselves but aren't aware of it, and then the blister gets infected, they may get their feet infected, they may get their hands infected, and then get secondary wounds. And this is also why sometimes you'll see amputation. I think many of the leprosy patients who end up at our hospital are experiencing some degree of depression. Leprosy, whether they're cured or not, is touching every aspect of their life, their family, their community.
Patients can be rid of the leprosy bacteria, but the disease's lasting physical effects are what follow an individual throughout their life. They might be cured, but they don't look cured. During their stays, which can last anywhere from a couple of weeks to half a year, patients build valuable friendships. The ward is a new community for those excluded from their own.
Only a third of our patients in the hospital are women. It's not because women get the disease less, it's because a lot of them will delay until it's completely unavoidable to come in. And by then, some of them will be put out of their families with or without their children.
People in my village do not know I'm suffering from leprosy. We never told anyone. They would hate me and isolate me if they knew. It feels good to stay in this hospital. The other sisters in the ward are very nice.
Though ostracized from their communities, patients find a safe haven of friendship during their temporary stays at Anandabon. While they are here, they can finally belong again. Pashupati is considered one of the holiest places in Nepal. It is located on the Bagmati River, which is sacred to both Hindus and Buddhists. Many people come for worship, however, tourists visit to witness a public cremation. It is said that those cremated at Pashupati are forgiven for any bad karma. Some families bring their loved ones there to spend their final days and to start the rituals immediately after their death.
The rituals actually, like when we come, we rotate the body, that is offering the body back to God. You see, to the Creator, Preserver and Destroyer. So you normally see them walking around with the body 3 times over the pyre. Likewise, the fire that is also offered, that is also given to Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, right, the Trinity.
No two ceremonies look alike because the rituals vary by caste, religion and region the person is from. Undertakers typically prepare the pyre using up to 600 pounds of wood per cremation.
I see people cry a lot, and I feel the same way, but I don't have any other options. This work is very difficult. It is sad to see people die, but I cannot run away from my job.
Undertakers like Chandra are losing work to a new system that is threatening the old ways.
And electric crematorium, it is a lot cheaper because you're saving a lot of forest, number one. It's a lot cheaper, a lot faster. And the tradition, it remains the same because before we put the person into the electric crematorium, the same rituals are followed, where we rotate the body and make our last offerings for last respects and all these things. But from there, like when it goes in, it's ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Whether it is a traditional or modern cremation, the family will spread the ashes into the Bagmati river, so their soul can be freed from the cycle of reincarnation. For 6 months, 14-year-old Govinda Paswan has lived at Tatal Brick Factory with his father Sri Ram and his 2 younger brothers. Sri Ram fell on hard times after his wife died in a traffic accident. He took a loan from a fixer and worked it off in a brick factory, moving his family from India to Kathmandu, Nepal.
I had to go through a lot of trouble after Govinda's mother passed away. I had to do my work, Govinda had to cook for the family. We had to go through lots of hardship.
Govinda and Sri Ram carry bricks 8 hours a day for just a few dollars.
I find this work very bad. Very, very bad. There is no fun in this work. I want to study.
Well, if you look at the history, probably some of these temples are dated more than 1,000 years back, and those temples are made out of bricks, and the quality is still good. Right now, also the quality of bricks in those temples are still good, so you can see the traditional value of bricks. Currently, there are about 800 brick industry, and the annual production of brick is around more than 3 billion bricks a year. Most of the brick industry in Nepal are traditional types of industries. It's a very labor-intensive process. So, in one brick industry, you will find between 500 to 1,000 workers working in one brick industry.
After each trip, workers get a token. These tokens translate into payment at the end of the season. Burning coal throughout the day, 103 brick factories in Kathmandu Valley make up a third of its pollution, according to Minergy, an NGO based in Nepal. As the monsoon season starts, workers wait for payment and get ready to head back home. Most of them come from India like Govinda. After paying off their debt, Govinda and Sri Ram make a combined $450 US for 6 months of work.
I feel bad that my son has to work here. He used to go to school back home. I ruined his life by coming here and bringing him with me. When kids study, they can change their destiny.
When I get back home, I want to go to school with my friends and study.
Kinjal Bajracharya is 6 years old. Her favorite color is pink. She enjoys juice and junk food, working on her schoolwork, going to school and playing with her friends, and playing with her hula hoop. Kinjal Bajracharya is also a goddess. Kinjal is a Kumari, otherwise known as a living child goddess. She is worshipped by the Hindus and Buddhists alike in her village of Bongmati, on the outskirts of Kathmandu. There are over 12 Kumari in Kathmandu, but only the 3 most prominent Kumari are funded by the government. This is the Kumari of Patan, the second most prominent Kumari. She is visited by thousands as both a tourist attraction and a religious deity. Kumari are selected from the highest caste and are believed to have a goddess inside them. It is a tradition that has been practiced for hundreds of years. Many believe the Kumari define the Nepali identity. The Kumari tradition has been in Kinjal's family for generations. She is the 4th most prominent Kumari, but she is not funded by the government. All of the responsibilities and expenses of being a Kumari fall on her family. Every day, her mother must dress her in red, fix her hair, and apply the traditional cat-eye makeup and tika. Twice a day, she must be given offerings and worshipped. Her family must hold expensive ceremonies 4 times a year and buy expensive makeup, garb, and jewelry.
It's not easy for us either, treating her as goddess at one time and then as a normal child another time. Sometimes we get confused. We don't know whether to worship her as a goddess or yell at her to do her homework.
Because she is a Kumari, Kinjal cannot do many of the things the other children of the village can do, such as wear the same clothes or share food. She also is treated differently. Many children are forbidden to play with Kinjal in fear that they may fall sick under the Kumari's curse.
We worry she might think it's a bad thing to be a Kumari. If I wasn't a Kumari, I could play with other children.
Carrying out the Kumari tradition has been passed down from generation to generation. Once Kinjal loses her first tooth, her younger sister will take over the role of Kumari in the family. After years of being a goddess, Kinjal will return to mortal status. It's a transition that can be shocking to a Kumari. Even though the family feels honored to keep up such an important tradition, Kinjal's parents wish things could be different for both Kinjal and her little sister.
If I were to choose, I would like my daughter to be a normal child.